Hi, it's Lisa Harris, and I have a review of the VLOOKUP function. Right now I'm in the file Discount Rentals. This is the file that's used in Tutorial 8 for the review assignment, and I've just finished most of Step 5, but I'm now about to do the last part, which is where I use a VLOOKUP. So I'm on cell H9, and I need a VLOOKUP here to calculate the charge per day. So when you use a VLOOKUP, know that the VLOOKUP function is just doing what you would do if you were just using paper and pencil. So if you wanted to find out what the charge per day was, the first thing you'd say, well, is what kind of car do I have? And that's over here. So let's say I'm using or I'm renting a minivan. Well, first I know that I have a minivan, and then I come down here to the table and I look for minivan. And here it is. I find it in this table. And then in that table I trace over to find the end result I want. And the end result I want is not so much minivan, but how much the charge is per day. And I see that over here in column 2, which is $58. So the VLOOKUP function does the same thing. Let me show you. So first I'm going to click my cursor here because that's where I want it to display. And I'm on the Formulas tab in the ribbon. I'm going to click f of x and choose VLOOKUP. And here it prompts me with all of the different arguments. The first thing I want is the lookup value. Well, that's the first thing I actually do. The first thing I actually do is say to myself, what am I looking up? And what cell contains what I'm looking up? And it's this cell here, the minivan. I'm going to click on minivan, and of course it doesn't type cell B5, it types type car because earlier I created that named cell or named range. Next thing is the table. I'll click my cursor there, and the table that I'm using to look up all the data was down here. So I'll drag over that. And of course that corresponds to rental rates because earlier again I named that range rental rates. And then the third argument is the column index number. Well, once you look something up in the table, or once the Excel elves look something up in the table, the question is which column contains the data that you ultimately want to spit out? Is it column 1, 2, or 3? And regardless of where this table is, it takes that table, and the very first column is 1, the second is 2, etc. Well, I don't want to spit out anything from column 1, otherwise it would just spit out minivan. What I want to do is spit out the charge per day, which is in column 2. So my column index number is 2. If I wanted to spit out the charge per mile, then my column index number would be 3. But right now I'm calculating just the charge per day. The last argument is the range lookup, and again for any of these, if you want to read more about them, you can look down here in the dialog box or click help on this function for detailed help information, and it really is fantastic help information. So this last argument has two options, either true or false, and you can read the details down here, but I want an exact match. I want false because I want it to not find an approximate match, but exactly match minivan. You know, if there's a typo, you know, I don't want it to find, I don't want it to actually try to guess. They should enter the information accurately, partly because they're not going to be typing minivan, they're going to be pulling this from a drop-down menu. All right, I'm ready to go. I'm going to click OK. And it looks like the charge per day is $58. Now to check it, I can go to minivan and just manually myself say, where's minivan? Oh, here it is. What's the charge per day? Oh, $58. That makes sense. Now to test it, I can come up here, click the down arrow and say, well, what if I were doing the luxury? Well, manually, if I just did it, I would come down here, look for luxury, and then move over and find out, oh, the charge per day is $60. And sure enough, that switched over here. And that's a little review of the VLOOKUP. You'll also repeat it again for the next option here and also in other exercises in this tutorial. That's it.